I thought I would take you through all of the different notebooks and planners and stuff that I'm using at the moment, because there's a lot. That's a fun way to spend an afternoon, right? Just looking through my notebooks. Anyways, that's what I've decided to do. So the way I'm going to order this is I'm going to go from the earliest adoption of notebook to the more recent editions. And then I'm also going to talk about some additions that I think I'll be making soon to this system, because I think there's some notebooks that I could still incorporate that I don't use. I did see a similar video by a creator that I will pop up here that was somewhat inspirational for this video. You know, I'm nosy. I like looking through people's things and seeing how people do things. So if you have any videos of your own that you would like to pop below. So the first notebook that I'll talk about, an A4 notebook. This is 160 pages. And this is where I do my morning pages, which is part of the book, The Artist's Way. It's 3 A4 or American letter based paper every single day, written by hand, first time of the day. So I just use plain lined paper. However, I did recently buy a big packet of books like this that I think I'll move into that is blank paper. So it is possible that I'll move on to doing that. And these ones, I think they have, 60 pages, if I'm not mistaken. They could fit ish a month, because I think I would write more small handwriting if I wasn't using lined paper, so it's possible I would move it to 2 of those pages a day if I was doing that. Anyways, I have been doing this for I'd say about a year and a half now, probably 18 months that I've been consistently doing this. When I first read The Artist's Way, I tried to incorporate this in like not so strict ways, but I've since come to the realization that you just have to do it. You just have to get up and do the pages. I found that it's brought me a huge amount of clarity in being able to formulate my thoughts, and often I will end up writing something kind of creative in there. Not every day. Some days it's just to-do lists and, you know, the messy stuff that's on my mind. But today, for example, wrote out some content ideas for Instagram. I wrote out a plan for a video that I hadn't even thought of, you know, like, so that just kind of came up and I planned out that whole video, and then I planned a little bit of this video. But most of the time it is just stream of consciousness. I'll end up thinking about something specific and writing on that eventually. Just like looking through the past month of what I've written. I've written short stories or like beginnings of maybe creative writing things. There was a lot of poetry 1 or 2 days and a lot of creative writing actually in the month of kind of late May to June. But yes, I love doing this. I think also it's kind of forced me to slow my mornings down a bit, because they used to be a lot more going on and a lot faster, whereas now I kind of really relish that morning practice of sitting down and writing 3 pages. What I will say about this also is that, you know, I feel like this will lead me into my next notebook that I talk about, but it's not totally journaling, because it is more stream of consciousness. I don't tend to have like what's going on day to day with Susan and Joe, you know what I mean? Like there's no sense of continuity of what's actually going on in my life. So when I look back on old notebooks of these, because I have still got all of the notebooks since I started doing this, I don't necessarily find exactly what was going on at the time. Like there is essences of it, especially if it's a stressful time. There'll be more of like a brain dump, more to-do lists, but there won't often be like a sense of, you know, day to day what's gone on. It doesn't really feel like a journal. Over recent times, I've definitely kind of wanted to have more of a journal that I can look back on and reflect on different times. I've also kind of used this at times as like a commonplace book, and I would often carry this around with me all the time. I have been doing that less now, and I've kind of moved on to different ways of doing that, because, you know, this is large and I actually don't like carrying a big backpack around with me. The second notebook, which is in this really nice, I don't know what you would call this, like a binder, is it? I got this on Amazon. This is my spiritual planner, which is a bit, you know, woo-woo, and I haven't really talked about this kind of thing much here. But inside I have 2 small plain black bullet journals, and at the moment these are empty, but I'll explain what the kind of plan is for these. Can you see this? Yes. And then this third notebook is a notebook that this is the original notebook, and I have only recently gotten the kind of additional things. This is where I write in anything spiritual. So for me, spirituality is recent, and it's coming from a place of seasonal practices, astrological practices, the use of tarot cards. So what I have in here in this notebook, and something that I think I will change, is this is quite a long bullet journal, 200 pages, and I've since learned that it's better for me to have less space in a notebook, because my perfectionist tendencies means anytime I make a mistake, like I'll just want to move on from a notebook straight away. But what I have in this notebook at the start is kind of just different reference tables. So I have my birth chart and details about like my own personal astrology. I have the wheel of the year, which is like the seasons. I have a little bit of like the general astrology houses. I have the moon phases for the year, the planets and what's all going on with them this year. And then I have some details of like tarot cards and what they're all about. Then the main thing that I use this for is more on a regular, maybe every kind of 2 weeks, I will do spiritual gathering with like-minded souls where we, reflect on what's going on. And these are typically around the new moon and the full moon. For example, this is a spread that I made for the Pisces new moon a couple months ago. So I have like some notes of what it was all about, and then I have the details from a tarot spread that I did at that time. And what I like about this is it makes reflection and journaling a little bit more fun. Sometimes it can be hard, like it's hard work to do personal growth stuff. Theming it around the kind of shifts that you have in the seasons and around the moon cycles, for me, is just like makes it more fun. This has also been great for me to kind of get over perfectionism a little bit, because I started this out wanting it all to be like really beautiful, and then over time it has gotten more and more messy and a place for me to really just kind of spill my thoughts at times. And this place has felt a lot more like a journal than the morning pages, because oftentimes I'm working with specific journal prompts and actually writing in the answers, then I feel like I'm really reflecting on things. I love being able to look back at this and know what was going on at different stages and how I was feeling about different things. This is something that I relied on really heavily when I was working on my auditions for acting school, because I had a lot of kind of personal growth work that I needed to do to kind of get through that period. It's something that I continue to use, has brought me so much joy. What I'm planning to do with these 2 little notebooks that are at the front, I would like to put in these kind of reference books for more detailed work that I'm doing around astrology. So more of a general notebook about astrology that I can refer back to, and probably the same thing for tarot, maybe a couple other things around other kind of spiritual texts that I read. And then it means that this bullet journal in here, like I think this one will probably last me through the year, just depends how often I continue to use it, but that would kind of then get switched out, that I probably would use a smaller one going forward, because I don't know, there's something about filling out a big notebook that I find overwhelming. That is my spiritual planner. If you would like more of a detailed kind of walkthrough of this one, I just love this. I have also just love taking it out when I go to these events and just feeling like a little bit stuck up, but like literally just to myself, of being like, it like feels like a real hefty piece of work, Cool. The next most recent notebook that I've started using, this one also is in a binder with multiple notebooks. This is from a brand called Creator's Friend. I think I would eventually do, a more detailed review of this planner system, because it is new and I don't know just yet how I'm going to feel about it long term. But within here, I have 4 notebooks. The first one is a future planner, which is something I'm planning on using for the second half of the year more so, or really for the kind of summer into autumn period. So it's got a year at a glance, places to track different dates and things like that. I have a plain notebook, which I tend to have as whatever I'm working on at the moment. So I'm using this one for improv notes from an improv class I've been taking, so it's just handy to have this with me. Then I have a weekly planner, which is just a to-do list. I'm just going to see if I have anything I can share. Yeah, I think this is probably fine to share. So I use the Getting Things Done system, but I use it in this notebook quite simply with just a color for the amount of time approximately that it's going to take. And then I use a letter to show what kind of work it is. It's definitely harder to work with this than it is to work with my getting things done system on Notion. It's nice to have this with me on the go. I tend to kind of do like a weekly brain dump into here. Then things that don't quite get done, I'll move on to my Notion for more long-term things. You can't really keep track of projects here in the same way. Like I think I'd need to think about that a little bit more, because you can put something on your to-do list that requires a follow-up and then forget about the follow-up because you've crossed something off the to-do list, which isn't something that tends to happen when I use my Notion system, because automatically I'm thinking about projects and what things are projects versus what things aren't projects. So the follow-up is easier to remember. But what I do love most of all with this is the daily planner. The daily planner is called the Fast Brain Friend. And I don't know if this was their original product, but it's a daily planner that is designed for neurodivergent brains. And I don't think you need to be neurodivergent to use it. But the creator of this, Alana Pertel, it's an Australian brand. Let me just read what it says at the start. This collection of notebooks is an intentional design for the neurodivergent mind. Traditional planners seem like they will be helpful, but when your brain is wired differently, things can become very quickly overwhelming. We've used a minimalist bullet journaling aesthetic to keep the chaos to a minimum and to give that brilliant brain of yours room for its daily creative outlet. Multiple rotating page designs introduce just enough change to stimulate your mind each day. This is true. Elements of game and color coding add novelty to help that dopamine flow. So every day there are these different spreads. So these are some of my filled out ones. And it means like you can choose what one you need for different days. So you can see that I have the 7th of June here, the 6th of June there. So I will just go to whatever spread I feel like I need on a given day. If I have more of a to-do list day, then it will look more like this. If I have more of a schedule day, it will look obviously like this side. I quite like this one here for when I have like more of a meetings kind of day that I can write in notes, or if I have a day off, I quite like that. I like this one, but that's not the nicest version of it. There's 7 different spreads, so they rotate around. You can also plan your week in here, where you would plan more so your scheduled events and also plan your meals for the week, which I didn't think I was going to use the meal planner, but it made me really quickly aware how often I forget to eat meals, because one of the weeks that I didn't use it, like by Thursday, I had missed 4 meals already. So I'd say that is something I will continue to use a little bit more. All together came in a bundle from their site, and I really like this. It's really smooth. I do worry about it getting damaged, so I tend to carry it around in here. And I, so far since I've had this, have been bringing this with me everywhere every day and really have enjoyed using it. I find I'm much more likely to check in with it because there is an element of like, ooh, I get to go and look at that colorful page again, which sounds really stupid, but it is how I feel. I have also picked up, you can see some of them here, some of their other notebooks, because they have specific notebooks that have been designed for like specific activities, but I haven't actually used any of these yet, so it's kind of more my plan for the summertime. So for example, this one is for cooking. It's like a recipe notebook, but so far I really like these. I just like the ritual that it gives me. I like sitting down and planning my day, and it doesn't feel as overwhelming anymore. Something that I didn't like about the daily planner that I was using last year, and I really like the brand, but my issue was every day was the same, and not every day is the same. So I would get really frustrated when I would fill out a planner page that has a to-do list where on that particular day I have a billion things to do. So my to-do list looked way beyond the main things. But then other days I would only have one thing to do. So I would only be taking up one spot of the to-do list, and that was really frustrating. So what I like about these is I can choose the planner spread that I need for the type of day that I'm going to have, and I love that. So this video is not sponsored by Creators Friend, but I would love to work with them in the future, so I'll just link them down below. That is the daily planner that I have been using for actual like note taking. I recently bought a bunch of notebooks on Amazon. I know that's really bad, I hate Amazon, but what can you do? I bought some in bullet journal format and then some in just plain paper. I really don't like the bullet journal ones, how they turned out, because they are quite aggressive. And by that I just mean the dots are really extreme. I'll still use these because I don't want to waste them. For example, is some notes that I took recently for my yoga course. It's just the dots are really extreme. Do you agree? compared to, like, you can't, I don't even know if you can see the dots. I will still use them, but I won't love them. Whereas then I bought some small plain ones, which I also used this one for some notes for yoga. Anyways, so I have been using what I'm calling reference notebooks. These are places that I'm going to store long-term notes of things. I used, as I said, these two to write out all of my notes ahead of my yoga exam, and I'll be able to refer back to these. Typically, I will travel around with these notebooks as I'm working on whatever it is that I'm working on. They're quite lightweight because there's only 30 pages. If you include the back-to-back, there's 60, so they're small. I can definitely put a few of them in my bag. So they're quite easy to transport. I do need to put like kind of a cover on them. The reason I got these kind of plain ones was thinking that you can kind of design the outside of them a little bit, but I have yet to do that. I do take notes at different things, and they would have a lot of the time gone into like something like this, more of a commonplace notebook. But then my problem is I would never actually do anything with them further. So now my aim is to put together lots of these different reference notebooks that I can then go and look through for a specific topic. And that might seem like very basic, but I haven't done it. I feel like I have so much information about different topics that is just either in my brain or in some random notebook somewhere, or like on Notion somewhere, but not quite like sorted. I feel like these are going to be ideal for that. And then I've been using the same notebooks, but for a different purpose. So let me get one of those. Yes. Oh, I have labeled this one Teacher Training Manual. These are what I'm calling project notebooks. While these ones are going to be reference notebooks that I intend to keep and refer back to and organize somewhere in my home, these ones are more transient, more short term for when I'm working on a specific project, something that I don't think I'll refer to this much after the project is completed. For example, I have one here, which is the teacher training manual for the drama school that I run. And then this one is process improvements, also for the drama school that I run. And these are two projects that I'm going to be working on in July. But as I know I'm going to be working on them, I keep getting thoughts about them and I keep wanting to write about them. I can then put those ideas in here and not have them swimming around in here because I have other things that I'm working on right now and I can't be focusing on these things. So this just gives me kind of an outlet for those thoughts and ideas, and it's not necessarily reference, but it is, you know, I will refer to it when I work on the project. The way that I've organized these is I write an index at the start and then I've numbered the pages so that I can then refer back to whatever I've written about the particular thing. So this, for example, is process improvements notebook. The first one that we're thinking about is how to better improve the way we add fees for different events that we do. And then this is just me kind of thinking out loud about that. Some things that might come up in here can then be translated into the right one of these so that when I'm working on whatever it is I'm working on, the things will be in the right place. So I have that happen a lot with content ideas. I currently don't have a notebook for that, but I definitely should have one, because then, to be honest, I can go back through months of these and go through all the content ideas that I haven't actually fully thought out. There is maybe a better system to notes. I think this is a system that's going to work really well for me because it'll allow me to just have a bit of flexibility and also have a clear place to put things, which I have had, like, just not really had a good system at all for that. I think I would also put things in Notion. I had started that. I had started going from my earliest notebooks forward and taking out ideas from there and putting them into Notion. But there's just something about the way it ends up looking in terms of notes that I just don't have a direct desire to use it. I think digitizing notes is important because, especially for something like my improv notes, say, the other teachers in the school would benefit from having access to those. If I'm working on a project, other people would benefit from having my project notes. So it's about figuring out, I think, the best way to put two and two together, basically. If I was to add more things into the mix, I think I would use one of these as a commonplace book for, let's say, when I'm out and about, because it would fit in with my general planner. I think I would take out the improv notes from in here, but I would put into this a commonplace book that I would then move into the various notebooks into their kind of permanent home. I don't currently use a commonplace system, but I think it's something I can easily add in. The other thing that I think I would like to add, I've already sort of touched on, is more of a sense of a real memories journal. I think something like these, either the A4 or the A5 versions where it is plain paper, where I can more so actually reflect on the events of the day. Now, the problem with that is I don't know that I would get into the habit of actually using that on a daily basis, maybe on a weekly basis. I would like it to be something that's quite visual and fun and like maybe has photos, like more of an album kind of thing. So I'm not sure if these would go together or separately, travel journal. I've been thinking about this for actually a really long time, and the video that I watched that kind of inspired this video, they had a travel journal in there as well. I love traveling and I have been creating content around traveling, but I think I would like to have more something for remembering those kinds of events, because I am really forgetful. Like, I remember everything in some ways, but I need to like remember to remember them. So that's where I think this kind of journal would be really nice for me to be able to look back on. Junk journaling has taken on a real thing lately that I think that's something I could get into. Again, maybe like a monthly thing, monthly memory notebook. I don't know how it's going to work, but that's something I'd like to do. And if you have any suggestions, let me know. I saw in this like creative space near me, they were doing creative journaling classes for 6 weeks or 4 weeks, but I was A, on a course buying ban, and B, I just couldn't go to some of it, so I didn't sign up for it. I would love to do that kind of thing, really just exploring memories and enjoying that. Okay, so those are all the notebooks that I'm using at the moment to organize my thoughts and organize my life. I hope that this video was in some way interesting. Do comment below what kind of notes system, note planner, journal systeming stuff that you use below, and if you want a deeper dive into any of these over time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.